What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another live stream. My name's Lewis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name is Lewis, and I'm also known as Mr. Camera Junkie. And please be sure to introduce yourself into the chat so that you can get the nice Camera Junkie crew welcome. And with that, as always, tradition goes here to see exactly who's here, who's in chat. And right off the bat, we got Scott Rogers. Oh, let's fix this comment here. I like this song. All right. Just a little small for my liking. There we go. All right, there we go. That looks much better. We'll work with that. Unlock and lock. Boom. All right, it says, looks like something cool to carry in your pocket. I would sometimes like a body cam. Tonight, I will find out how it works for that purpose. Okay, great. That's awesome. We will find out. And another just bit of information, because today we are going to be talking about my latest camera, the Insta 360 X3, and how I edit with it using my application, but I don't use it on the phone. I actually prefer using the desktop version of the application, and I'm gonna demonstrate that in a little bit. All right, we also have Gretchen hopping in here saying happy Saturday night to the MCJ crew. How are you doing once again? Ernesto, my favorite tech, is here saying, I started using mine. I'm learning how to edit on the phone. Still need more practice though. Well, like I just mentioned, I'm going to be using the desktop version instead of the phone. So maybe it will entice you to maybe use it that way. For me, I find it a lot easier to edit with the desktop app. And I'm going to show you some of the things that the way I do it. So we'll talk about that in a bit. He says it's really cool for the 360 pics on Facebook and Insta. Absolutely. Check out Parker Jennings. Welcome, Parker. I think this might be the first time that you actually comment, if not the first time here. So welcome. And that's like, did I make it? Mama, I made it. Like when Parker shows up to your stream, you know you're doing it right. All right. So the visual dad saying happy Saturday. How are you? We also got John in the house saying hello, hello. All right. So I always take my Insta on family trips and try to take it out during photos and video shoots. Yes. Why? Because what we're going to be talking about is the Insta 360 camera and the variations thereof, and 360 cameras in general. Now, this is the one that I chose, and I'll let you know why I decided on this one. Mostly, it was the latest version in this body style, but that 360 cameras in general are pretty much abundant in a lot of different ways and forms from different companies. One of them being Insta360, others being GoPro. I believe they also have their own 360 camera. And the way that you could really tell if it falls into that category is the key feature that it has lenses on both sides that record in equal quality. Now, it's got like a 2.7K or something, like for each lens. And that's the fidelity that it could record in to give you a 5.7K 360 image that you could utilize and manipulate after the fact. One of the coolest things about 360 cameras for me is the fact that you do all of the shot selection in post. Basically, it's kind of like that rotisserie chicken, thing back in the day, those infomercials where he will say you just set it and forget it. And that's the really cool feature about this. It's recording everything at all times. So the only thing that you have to think about is the perspective that you want to get and make sure that the camera's in that general area. It will do the rest. So when it comes to stabilization, it's also probably one of the leaders of stabilized footage, Insta 360, because of their like what is it, horizon leveling system that is built into this. So no matter how you place the camera and no matter what type of orientation, it's always going to be level with the horizon. So the gyroscope that's within it and the systems that are built into it are phenomenal. But now, why did I choose this one over a variety of different 360 cameras, even from the same brand, Insta 360? Like you have the RS1, and that has more modularity to it, being the fact that it could separate and you can change lenses to the, to the body. And then there's just quite a few limiting factors, and one of them was the fact that it was modular. Now, these are also action cameras, so they're designed to be put in kind of rough places. And in those rough places, things could get a little hairy. For example, I had this camera, and while I was testing footage, placed it on the Insta 360, what's it called? The invisible selfie stick. I'm gonna pull it out over here because I got one of them. So I put it on this guy right here, the Insta 360 invisible selfie stick. And this, I got the extra long one, right? I think it's 9 meters or something like that. It goes really, really long. But I connected it to the 360 camera and propped it on my car. Now, I had also mentioned prior that some of the accessories that I had gotten for mounting this camera to my car was this magnet, right? This 100-pound force magnet. And the reason why I wanted to get this was because I wanted to be able to put this camera in a variety of different locations, not just glass mounted locations on the vehicle. And 100 pounds of force should have been enough. Well, the one thing that I did that was my mistake, and I understand now, is that I decided to connect the selfie stick to that magnet. And there's a thing called leverage, right? And the further away the camera was, applied more leverage to that point. So on a crossing of a light in Hollywood over here, there was too much leverage and caused my Insta 360 camera to fall off my car and crash. Now, I'm very glad that I also decided to pick up this small rig cage that the camera sits in, and you can see it took some damage right there from that fall. I made a YouTube short, so you can see the video and the footage of the camera falling. But the fact that I had some lens guards on them and the cage saved the camera. I even put a screen protector on the lens itself, the screen right here, even though it's a touch screen, just so that I could, make sure that it's protected in every way possible. But now that I have tested it out and been using it in a variety of different ways, actually, let me touch on this a little bit. This camera is also waterproof, like I believe up to 30 feet or something like that, which is a lot deeper than I'd be using it at all. But the fact that I can have it outside and that it's weatherproof and it's completely waterproof in the elements was another reason why I decided to go with the X3 model. But the one thing that I've learned is that this camera has a phone type layout. So most of our phone devices are long if you use an Android or an iPhone, unless you're using one of the new flip cameras, but I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. If you have one, I feel sorry for you. But it has a similar profile to what we're used to as far as iPhones go, So we're used to using this device and holding it in that manner, right? Holding it just like this in our hands. And this is a kind of chunky, but much easier, smaller footprint in the hand. So utilizing it in that manner, it gave me an entire different perspective because, like I said, we do all of the selecting of the imagery and the angles after the fact. So the only thing that you basically have to do with this camera to utilizing excuse me, to utilize it as a vlog type camera is turn it on and just talk to it. Nothing else. And I was really surprised with this camera's onboard audio. So it is good enough to be used just straight out of the box, which is very surprising. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, it's an action camera, so it's probably has like noise and wind reduction like built in, but the audio is definitely good enough for someone, maybe let's say you were upgrading from using something like your phone. So I decided to try it out, right? And I was pleasantly surprised because if you're someone who's worried about shaky camera or it not being leveled correctly, this takes all of that out of the way. So all you do is turn it on, hit record, and the best part is that you don't even have to frame yourself. It does have a front facing screen, but that's mostly for you to interact and kind of adjust the settings. Now, if you're using automatic settings, then you're good to go. And that's why I think this could be one of the best vlogging cameras, like under the radar, if that's what you decide to use it for. Why? Because after like a minute of recording, the screen itself will just shut off, meaning you're not going to be distracted at looking at yourself in the shot, and it will conserve power to allow you to record for longer periods of time. Another thing is that all you have to do is just look at this bubble or within any general area within this area, so to speak, like, and you really don't even have to. You can just have it as a companion, right? And you can just walk and talk, almost like if you were in a phone conversation, and just have it out anywhere within the general area. And for this camera, believe it or not, kind of the closer is kind of the better when you want to do self-recording. So the selfie stick is not even necessary. There is a mode within the Insta 360 that's called the me mode, which asks you to put on the invisible selfie stick. But the way that it tells you to utilize it is that it tells you to just basically extend the pole and hang it out in front of you, like a 6 foot pole that just sticks out in front of you. And then it will like synchronize and latch on to you automatically and record you in selfie mode. That's the me mode. But the one backdraw from that aspect is that you lose kind of the 360 capability, because anything that you are recording, you have the ability to manipulate in post-production, and you can reuse the same exact clip multiple times because you're using different sections of the 360 camera. So for that reason, I would recommend just to use it in the 360 mode. Hang it in your hand right here, and this is plenty of distance for you to just basically record yourself and get good audio and visual with amazing stabilization and amazing, horizon locking. So it's gonna be like the easiest footage that you'll ever record. And that's what I've found out with the Insta 360 X3, or basically any 360 camera, is that once you understand its powers and its limitations, it basically boils down to basically one of the easiest cameras that you can use, in my opinion. Now, let's go back to the chat to see exactly what's going on here. So, excuse me. All right, so we have John says 100%. It says, I 100% like the Mac app as well for the 360 edits. The phone has some cool features, but I prefer the desktop. Well, I guess I haven't messed that much with the phone app because every feature that I thought that I used on the phone, I was able to find in the, computer app. All right, so Parker says it was his first time and looking forward to it. Well, thank you for hanging out. Hey, Kathy's in the house saying hey to the camera junkies. And she says, ouch, hard lesson to learn on leverage. Yeah, that one I learned real quick. Hey, the belief hero is in the house. How are you doing, sir? And we also have Sammy Superstar saying hi to everyone. Randy sneaking in here saying hello, hello. All right, so now to continue. Okay, hold on. Does the invisible selfie still have a locking mode, or how does it lock to a certain point? Uh, doesn't lock at all. So if you're talking about these things right here, no, they just have like a basic friction, right? So it's plenty because as soon as it gets, pretty extended, it is carbon fiber to keep the weight down, because to have such an extended selfie stick, if this were to be metal, this thing would be dangerous. But it being carbon fiber is very lightweight, but it also has like a bit of a like give to it, so it tends to just like rock a little bit, almost like a fishing pole. Funny enough, when I was testing it out for the first time, my neighbor actually thought I was like that it was a fishing pole and that I might be fishing, and I was like, I'd be fishing in my front yard, like no, it's a camera. But it gave a similar aesthetic, especially when you have something, a little chunky in weight hanging off of the thin end of it, so it kind of like will droop down a little bit. But with that said, it's just on friction alone, but it also doesn't have enough weight at top to bring it down or to make it start sliding down, even if you hold it straight up. I will show you in a little bit, because we're going to be running through some footage that I decided to record right before the live stream, just to demonstrate this as as an example. All right, so everybody's saying nice. Excuse me. And you know what? All right, Aiden. All right. I always forget to say this, but if you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit that like button. It is highly appreciated and it goes a long, long way. Let everyone know that you're enjoying your time here at the Camera Junkie live stream. Okay. So now, there are some accessories that I do recommend. I got the cage, which saved this camera. If not, it would have been done. There's the invisible selfie stick, which I think is really cool because it will maximize the ability to utilize this camera, because I've always been interested in purchasing and learning how to fly a drone, even if it was one of those DJI little mini extra light ones that you don't need to get a license for. That's something that always interests me, but I don't have the need for it at all, because this does exactly what you would want a drone to do. This is like a hypothetical drone that you can fly anywhere, which is another advantage of why I wanted to get one of these cameras. There's no way that you can be in like I forgot the name of it, but that the Tokyo Square where everyone's always walking, and you see the mass of people. Is almost like it used to be back in the day in Times Square. There's no way that you'd be able to legally turn on a drone and get an amazing aerial shot in any of these locations. But with something like this, you have the ability to turn it on and just be there and walk across the street yourself and get the same type of imagery that you would want out of a drone. And it is very, very convenient. Just I can't stop raving about this little device because I've been having so much fun messing around with it. But now that you've recorded yourself in 360, you're like, how do you actually reframe? How do you utilize this imagery after the fact? So let's show you. Now you have the ability to flip open this side right here and there's a USB-C. Let's see if we can show that. There we go. USB-C cable there. Now that USB-C cable is how you charge the camera, but at the same time you could connect it to view the files within the camera itself. To make it a little bit easier, my micro SD I put on a small dongle right here. So we're just going to connect that to get the fastest speeds, but also gives you the ability to utilize the camera and have a separate memory card in it recording, with what I would always recommend, a second battery. And what's really cool is that the battery is also like part of the body itself. And the way that you can see is that it has this little rubber seal right along the edge. So when you go to change out the battery of the Insta360, it will pop out, and it actually is part of the system, as you can see. And when you have it there, that rubber seal is part of what keeps everything weather and waterproof, which is just amazing. So all of that in this compact little case. But now we're going to get into the application part, and we're going to connect the dongle so that we can read the information directly from the chip to make things a lot faster. All right, let's go to that scene, edit screen, and there we go. All right, and this is the Insta360, and let me make sure I get the name correct. The Insta360, because I think it's called the 2023. Yeah, Insta360 Studio 2023. You should be able to just, if you have one of these, Google the Insta360 desktop application, and you'll find it right away for download. But this is what we're looking at here. And let's go ahead and connect the SD card. Boom. It should recognize it. Yep. As you can see, and it says import all. Yep. And we're going to import all of the files. So now we're just letting the computer do that. As you can see, after it loaded some files, it also is loading the gyro data. That is what synchronizes both the footage and the stabilization attached to it. All right, and this is being done in real time so that you can see exactly how this works. Now, to better understand this, you have to think about it as a point case. So I kind of give all my cameras a nickname. And this camera's nickname is Navi. And for those of you who played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, would know that that is your guiding fairy, so to speak, right? The companion that hovers over your shoulder and sees everything from an aerial view. So that's why I've named this camera Navi, for the simple reason that that's how I would utilize it. This is going to be so much fun to be able to just put onto the selfie stick and record just like hovering over my shoulder, because of the effect of the imagery that you get. So now back to the application. It's already done loading, and it's telling you learn to streamline your 360 edit like a pro, right? We don't need any plugins right now because I don't use Premiere Pro. But if you do use Adobe Premiere Pro as your editing source, then you could actually install plugins that allow you to utilize this program, I believe, within Premiere Pro. But I'm a Final Cut Pro user. So here's a little bit of information. This application for the Insta360 Studio is a type of editor, but it is not Final Cut Pro. It is not your full NLE type of editor that's going to allow you to, really like mess with audio levels, add sound effects, transitions, and things like that. No, this is basically so that you could render the information that you've recorded on your 360 camera. Now, there's a way for you to actually just take this footage and render it completely. render it completely in the 360 format so that it really gives you like a your choice perspective. What do I mean by that? Well, if I were to upload it into this 360 type of format, which is the way that the camera is recording it itself, then the video will show up available for people who are using VR headsets or using the VR type of gyro technology to select the shot after the fact by using the gyros in their phone, which means through different applications like Google goggles that you're able to basically see 3D videos, and you select the shot and you decide what you want to see out of that video. So let's get into it. All right. Don't remind me because I don't use Premiere Pro. Okay, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, there we go. It opened my window and I was trying to say like, anyways. All right, so this is the first shot. As you can see, this is the first piece of thing that I was recording, and this is basically close to my roof. But from right there, you're able to basically adjust the shot. So instead of showing you Aiden's mess, let's see something in daylight that can give you a better view of what we're doing here. All right, let's open up this file. Boom. Now, just to show you right off the bat, that little dot right there in the center, and we can zoom in on it, right? That's the magnetic, the magnetic car adapter thing. This thing, I forgot the name of it, but anyways, that's this. And as you can see, the shadow with the leverage pole on the selfie stick. But the aerial shots that we get here are amazing. So let's just go over here. All right, where I'm on the road. This is what you're able to see. Now, while I'm using the scroll wheel on my mouse, I have the ability to scroll in and out of this imagery, and the easiest way to do it, and because this application it is pretty simple. There's a couple of different things that make it even easier, but you basically just click on the image whenever you want to, drag it. So it's just like click and drag, and this is what we mean about a 360 camera. It gives you full 360 view, and now you can set whichever angle you desire, or you could even track objects, right? So let's say I wanted to track something like this sign over here that says Pembroke Road, right? I want to track that. I'm going to step away from adding a keyframe, and I'm going to add a tracker. Actually, you know what? Seeming that keyframes is the first thing, let's add a keyframe. To add a keyframe, which is one of the easiest ways to use it, is basically saying like you want to just have the camera pointed in a general direction. So I'm just rewinding a bit here on the timeline to show me driving through traffic, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically like eliminate my vehicle, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, right? And that looks pretty good to me, right? And this is what I mean. With the removal of my car, this basically becomes a drone shot in the middle of traffic. And that's the shot that I want. So utilizing this program, saying this is where I want to start the shot, this is the angle, this is how zoomed in I want it, this is what I want, we're going to add a keyframe. Now, you can add a keyframe by selecting this plus symbol, but if you can see what it says there in very small text probably from you, Command K actually ends up automatically installing this keyframe. So from right here, we can just do Command K, and we've now placed the first keyframe on the timeline. Now, what this does is that it will take any footage from whichever angle, and when it gets to this point, it will be facing this direction. So from here, we can adjust basically like its width, you know, angle. We can like, this is like the focal length, man. I said this is what I wanted, and basically at 55, you know, 55 degrees of field of view, so basically like a 50 mil. All right, so now that we have this angle and we set the keyframe, all we have to do is basically just hit the space bar. Ooh, the system audio is on, so let's turn that off. I just had to check. So we just hit the space bar here on the application, and now it's just gonna lock into basically this orientation for the time period that I choose. And as I'm letting it roll, the selection is not going to move until I do so. But I said that I wanted to track that sign that said Pembroke Road. So we're going to do that in a minute. So now I'm gonna press pause, and I'm like, hey, what kind of car is that to the right? Well, I can just take a quick step back. Oh, that was forward. Right? Yeah, because that's the car. There we go. All right. And when we get to that vehicle, when we get right here, I want to check it out. So actually, you know what? Let's reframe that. Okay, and now that it's framed, we're gonna go right over here, and this is a key, like this is a pro tip when it comes to editing. Before you make any movement to change, we're gonna have to add another keyframe. Okay, and right here we're gonna add a keyframe, and we're gonna see how they're linked there in the bottom. What that is gonna secure is that you're gonna get the same shot steady forward from that moment to the secondary moment, right? To between the keyframes. Why is that important? I'm going to explain right now. Because from the distance in motion from where I just set this keyframe to, let's see, to the next one right here, I now have the ability to move and check on this vehicle over here, and maybe even zoom in to see more of it, right? But what I'm going to do is that I'm going to track this vehicle for a split second. So I'm going to select not the keyframe, but the tracker, the deep track. And now it brings us to this scene, which allows you to just click and drag over the item that you want to track, and simple as clicking, start tracking. And that's it. Now that it's out of the frame, is not going to track it anymore, and that would be it. So let's see exactly how that looks. It didn't even accept it. All right, so let's try to track something else. Let's try to track this vehicle. Oop. Start tracking. Okay, and there's gonna come in front of us, right? Because in front of me, in front of my vehicle. All right, and now that it's there, oh well, we can continue. Let it change lanes. All right, and now we're gonna stop tracking. Now I'm going to reset this to the front, and now I'm gonna add another keyframe. Okay. Now what this does is that I'm telling the imagery, basically, if I come to before my first keyframe, I could be looking backwards, right? And if I'm looking backwards and I hit play, you see how it automatically just brought me right back as soon as I hit the keyframe. But because I was just like a step ahead of the keyframe, it made that entire transition from looking from to the side to moving forward to where I added a keyframe in just that small allotment of time. Now, if I were to move a little bit further ahead and do the same thing, right? Add a keyframe here. Now, what it's going to do is that the distance between this frame and that frame, that's the time length that I just selected that I wanted that transition of that camera movement. Now, the previous movement we saw was very abrupt. It was like very fast. And what I did by dragging the keyframes further back between one angle to the next allowed me to slow down. So looking from the side angle here, as we click forward, it will slowly transition to the forward moving position because I gave it that much more time between the keyframes. So now as soon as it hit the keyframe, it's going to stay within that locked in angle that I wanted right at this moment, and it will not react to anything other than what I've selected. And as soon as it hits the next keyframe, it will allow me to make the next angle. And hopefully I explained that correctly, as far as that you need to set the keyframe at the beginning and at the end, because if not, then it will just think that it will be that amount of time that you want between those transitions, like I did at the beginning. And while you're thinking that it will just be giving you one shot, you will quickly learn that within the application, what it will do is that will actually take the difference between first keyframe and the other to make a transition. So the entirety of the shot would not be straightforward, but literally be like a gradual movement from front to back. Hopefully I made sense with that demonstration or explanation. So now that we passed that, we go to the tracking, we get right back to the point where it kind of squared up again. Well, let's kind of open up the, like, look deeper into the timeline. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this plus symbol, and that's going to like expand the timeline so that I can get a better detail of exactly what's happening. And what I'm showing is that the space between this, the end of the tracking, and the keyframe here is kind of too short. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to delete it and move a little bit further in the timeline. If it will move. Okay, right there. Now I'm going to add the keyframe, adjust it to the way I want it, and now that's set. All right, so now let's go back here. And now, as you can see, the distance between the end of the tracking, which is here, and this next keyframe is a lot longer. So what that's going to do is that from the last position of it tracking, now from tracking that vehicle, as soon as it stops tracking, now it's going to take that length to slowly move back, and you don't have that jarring movement. Right? And now that we finally hit the keyframe, we're at 100% of where we want the shot to be. But now let's say we want to mess around a little bit. So now we're going to add a new keyframe, but we're going to keep it there. We're going to let it step it up because we don't want that shot to move. But now when we're going to get to this next stop, I want to do what is it called? I think it's called like Tiny Planet, right? Which is the way or the aspect that we can use to utilize this. So how are we going to utilize Tiny Planet? Let's zoom out completely. Nope, that's not it. Where is it? I know there was a way of doing it because I did it. All right, so let's see. There we go. Did I just lose all my other edits? Nope, they're over here. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, it was. I was doing it. I forgot how to do it. Okay. I need to be more on top of the device so that I'm kind of pointed more towards the ground. And now, there we go. So that was my bad. That was just me forgetting how to utilize the app. Boop, boop. So now this is what we call Tiny Planet, right? Self-explanatory, nonetheless, right? So now we're going to add the new Tiny Planet keyframe. And let's rock with it. Boom. Let's see exactly how it's going to go. And as we move along in South Florida traffic, we're now rolling in, Tiny Planet mode. Oh, this is pretty fun. Miami Subs Grill to the right-hand side. But this is like pretty trippy, but also lots of fun, right? Especially like from this angle. So the possibilities are basically endless when it comes to utilizing the footage. But let's say, like I mentioned before, like, hey, how can you utilize this footage twice, right? So now before I go back to regular mode, let's pause it. We're going to add another keyframe so that we have that, like kind of bookshelf, or right? Is that how you would say? You bookending them, right? Making sure that that shot stays that way for the entirety of that period. And then from here to there, we're going to go back into hover mode. Actually, you know what? Let's go. No. There we go. Boop. And now we add another keyframe, which is going to signify the differences between, like that Tiny Planet mode and this new angled shot. So now we go back on the timeline and we go to play it. We're going to go from like the tracking to Tiny Planet. And then when we move along in the timeline, we're going to go from Tiny Planet and that's the transition that we wanted. So now let's say that that's exactly what we wanted and that's the imagery that we want to get. How do we repurpose this, so to speak? Well, this footage is being recorded with or without all of these keyframes and trackings and all these things. So what you can do is that you can export. You can use this to trim as well. Like I said, it's not a full-fledged, like NLE editor, but these trimming tools, right, allow you to go here and say like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna trim from the start. So now I cut there, and now I bring it to the behind, right, where we're just in traffic once again, and that's as far as I want to use it. Now I've just bookended the entire file as well by just cutting off the edges, and now we just have the sections with the keyframes that we want. The next step is to export this, and you have your export features. You could export the 360 video, right? The reframed video is what we want with all the keyframes. And then here you get to select your resolution and start export. So now we're waiting for that to export. Once we have that file, that's the file that we're going to use in Final Cut, right? That's our new video file that's being rendered now to the computer, which the 360 gives you all that ability, but to be clear, it adds that extra step. Unless you're using Premiere Pro, which I believe has one of those applications that you're able to use this application within Premiere Pro, but it's really utilizing the same thing. So once we're done with that export is where we really get to kind of retract what we wanted to do. So we can bring this back out. We can take this, right, and we can rewind, and we can go right here and go, you know what, this I want to remove this keyframe and just go down the list and remove everything that we've done. We just trash it, exit, out, and now all the work that we've done. Why can't I catch that keyframe? It's not giving it to me. Let's embiggen. There we go. Something just happened. Oh, I just heard I just heard like a like Super Mario power up noise, like and I was like, something happened. The export just finished rendering. All right, so let's see. Okay, we'll exit that and that one. Click both of them. Nope, that one's still hanging around there. There we go. All right, so now we have the clean file again, and if we go back to like where we started, right in traffic, I can go. You know what? I want this entire shot to just show the backwards angle of the people who were driving behind me. Now I can just put keyframe 1. Here we go. That's all I want, right? Hit space bar and render this entire thing. And go, I want that all the way to the end over here. Hit another keyframe and basically do the same thing. We're going to bookend these. Boop, we're going to trim. And now we only have a file from the same video file that just shows the reverse angle in this shot, showing like just traffic behind the vehicle for the entirety of the length of the video, which is the really cool part, saying like you could really utilize this for so many things. So here's another example. Let's say you were doing a mobile podcast and you wanted to take it from audio to video. This is such a cool device where you can put this in between you and someone who you're having that podcast conversation with, in the middle of a table at a restaurant, and if you are able to just have that conversation and record, you're able to render one file completely from the point of view and your perspective, and then render that same exact file once again over your guest perspective, and then edit back and forth, or even a shot with both of you in it for the podcast, right? You're getting all the angles that you need if you know how to utilize it correctly. And this is very like uninvasive, so to speak. Like, it's not intrusive at all, to be able to just sit this in between you and a guest while you're having that conversation, and now you're adding video to your podcast, which is just something that I was like, another way that I'm going to use it in the creator camp coming in October, which is I'm going to be able to just have this, and have a, conversation with someone on the spot and have pretty good visuals. So now, what another cool feature is that I'm rendering this right in 16:9. But let's say I was like, no, I wanted to use this for social media, so I need vertical content. Well, you have the ability to switch whichever type of aspect ratio you want to see here after the fact. So even though I put the keyframes and this is what I wanted to see, I can just now click to 16:9, so instead of 9/16, right? However the conversion rate goes. And now we have the vertical format in the same video. So it gives you even that much more flexibility, because I can't emphasize enough, everything is done in post. Everything is done within this program, and it's as easy as selecting your file and then exporting it, and then you have the files to manipulate and utilize for all of your other productions, just like if it was recorded through a regular standard mirrorless DSLR, etc type of camera. My mind is still going like like overtime with the possibilities of this said device, because you have the ability to get attachments. Like, let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Yep. This little guy costs $20. Oh, actually, let's go back to the main shot here, because I don't think there's much else that we need to show here with the editor, but just letting you know all the different possibilities that you can do with this application. So let's go back to it. But this is the Insta360 mic connection. So this little guy has a USB-C that connects to the side, the same one that I was showing you, but then also has a USB-C in and a microphone headphone jack port there as well. And what you do is you basically disconnect the little door for the USB-C and attach this bad boy right here on the side. So it'll look like that. What this does is basically give you the ability to power it indefinitely and also add a microphone, so that then you can add, I don't know, maybe something like Rode Wireless Go-Tos, right? And you select the wireless transmitter and you put it on there, and then you give one of the microphones to your your podcast guest, the other one on yourself, hit record, and you're off to the races. So there's so many possibilities, whether it comes to action cameras, different amazing angles that you can get with this. And I've been absolutely going gaga with all the possibilities. Like, one of the main things that I'm going to be utilizing this camera for, which is what I'm really excited, I mentioned it quite often just today, is Creator Camp. So I'm going to be recording a lot of like time lapse while I'm driving through the states, while I'm making this long road trip from Miami all the way to Amesbury, Massachusetts. So I am really excited for all of that, but also have that plan and in case to be utilizing this, like I mentioned, as my Navi. So my idea is to utilize it to record conversations, but also have it as a like 360 ferry that is hovering above my shoulder, recording all the events. And that's the coolest part. So I could be aiming to record something, and let's say something spontaneously happens behind you, right? This is recording it, and you get to find out what you've recorded after the fact. So there's this like level of I guess like that film type of photography, like that the anticipation that you would get waiting for your your pictures to be developed before you could actually see them. So I guess in that aspect, having everything being recorded, even the stuff that you're not aware of, is super cool, and why I would recommend this as well. Actually, you know what, I know we're reaching right towards the hour, but I'm gonna go back to the editing. So let me see about that. Go back to the editing here, right? Because I want to go back to another file. So let's go over here, and to demonstrate, because this is what I wanted to show you guys. All right, so why? Because I basically did kind of like a fake vlog, right? I decided to record some video, and this is me hand holding it, like I had said before. And what I would use here is basically deep track. I would just deep track my face, start tracking, and let it do the rest of the work. So as it's doing it, I don't have to worry about anything. And now if this was a vlog, right, that you were recording yourself, this is ideal, because this is giving you a wide perspective, yet you really don't have to worry about anything. This is a horrible track. Let's stop that track. Let's delete it. Let's go back to the front, because I think I selected too much of my chest. So let's track once again, just my face and beard. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this section. All right. But the cool thing about the tracking is that it's like, even though right now we're seeing it at 1:1, sort of like very zoomed in square aspect ratio, it's not finalized that way because we haven't rendered anything. So I will be able to take this vlogs type video, right? And let's just stop the tracking just to show, right? And now when I go to play it, it's just giving me the best stabilization and tracking. But once again, I have the ability to make it 9/16. I can zoom in, can zoom out, I could reposition. And what it does is that it's going to keep that gyro stabilization. Lost it there. Right? Boom. Super cool, super like easy when it comes to vlogs. In all sincerity, you don't really need tracking, because now we're past the tracking part. Just general direction. Crazy. All right. So now let's go back to it. All right. Let's go back to the chat, see what you guys are saying. All right, so I want one of these for my social stuff so badly. They are so much fun. Thank you, sir. He says your streams are so smooth, Lewis. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we're not done yet, man. John says another cool feature is to zoom into tiny planets. So fun, right? It is. Okay, so James has a question as well. Says, question, Lewis, can you move the area that is visible when you go to vertical, like, or this does only do center? No, you could basically select anything that you want, however you want with the keyframes. Just the only aspect that you really need to understand is that, like, if you need to give the keyframe space to breathe, if not, you have to give it the beginning and ending point. Basically, like, you have to use the keyframes to start and to end to make sure that you get the image that you want. Everything else you'll be adjusting accordingly. Yep. All right, but I think that that's it. So then, with that being said, boom. Oh, that wasn't the one. This is what we were supposed to get. Cities got, and that is not centered. What is going on? Okay, we're gonna fix that right now. All right, there we go. Boom. All right, now that that's locked, let's do this. Oh, Cities got wasn't locked. Okay, that'll fix it. All right, so we'll go back to this, and we'll do it again. All right. And now for this section of this week's Cities Go, which is channels that I think you should go and watch. All right, and with that, we click that button there. And this week we're talking about Mr. Kaiman Wong. If you haven't heard of him before, well, he's about to reach 1 million subscribers, even though he's been around the YouTube lands for a long time. He's a British Asian creator. And he's a lot of fun, very entertaining, but also very educational. So I wanted to bring someone else that I don't know if you've actually heard of them, but if you haven't, let me be the first to introduce you to Mr. Kai Wong. Now, one thing that I'm beginning to recognize is that we say that there's no such thing as a small channel, but then I can also reference that there's no such thing as a big channel, right? Because what I would consider someone that I've been watching for so many years, like Kaiman Wong here, at the same time, he can probably go about his day-to-day without people harassing him because he's not celebrity, right? Yet he is one of the better established creators on the platform, someone that I on City Goss think that you should go and watch. I've been watching his content for years. Yeah, Gretchen says the same thing. Says Kai, I've watched him for years. He's, a bit childish, right? He definitely has that aspect of him, but at the same time, he's a trip. Like, he is so much fun. What can I say? Because he's hilarious, and the antics that he gets with his like bokeh bro, with Locke, just the conversation and the banter between the two, I'm already like accustomed to them, so very parasocial. But I really enjoy his content, and I would highly recommend for you to take a look at maybe one or two of his videos if it's something that interests you, right? Like microphone or a camera that you were looking into. I would definitely recommend you check out his content. Like I said, a bit childish, but always a lot of fun, but and very very entertaining. But as you can see, he's been around for so many years, and he's just about to peak over to that 1 million subscriber mark, which is going to be a huge milestone for him. And congratulations ahead of time to Kaiman Wong. This week, Cities Ga channels that I think you should go and watch. All right, now, with that being said, that's gonna wrap up this week's live stream. We've actually done it. This has been episode 139, and you heard it correctly, 139. That is 139 consecutive weeks, damn, without missing a beat of the Camera Junkie live stream. And as always, I gotta thank every single one of you in the Camera Junkie crew for making this a possibility. We just reached, as a community, 1,500 subscribers. So I just want to say, yay! Do I have a cheering thing? Yes. Woohoo! 1,500 subscribers, which a couple of years ago I was just so happy to have reached 100 subscribers, and we've gotten quite a bit past that, so I once again want to thank every single one of you who make this possible, because you make the Camera Junkie live stream the place that I want to be every Saturday. This is where I have the most fun, and I can't thank you enough. So if you haven't gotten the drift already, just know that we're going to be doing this all over again next week. Same time, same place, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Camera Junkie YouTube channel. We're going to be doing it all over again. And next week, I was contemplating to see what was the subject going to be at Matter, but next week, we're going to have some fun, because it is the latest rabbit hole that I found in the photography world, so to speak, or in the videography world. So let me correct myself. For videographers and video shooters, next week is going to be a very interesting show, because I fell down, and Gretchen, you're going to love this, a Canon rabbit hole. Yes, I said it correctly. It's a Canon rabbit hole that I fell down through recently, and I can't wait to gather some more information about this new wave of like old retro tech. But that's where I'm just gonna leave it at, right? Because I don't want to say too much, and I'm gonna gather some information. I'm gonna be talking about that next week. I already have it all set up, so I have a week to put things together, and I'm really excited, because this is something that, I said it best. It's a rabbit hole, and I'm just gonna have you join me along for the ride, and I can't wait to talk to you about it next week when we do this all over again. So, as always, everyone, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me go ahead and check the chat. All right. Let me see what we're saying here. Says it's fun to see all the different ways to utilize the camera feature, and there's so many more, right? Like the possibilities are pretty much limitless with these 360 cameras, once you understand how they work and put them in the best place so that you can get the best imagery. All right, so the Belief Hero is also agreeing. Says his review of the Leica was hilarious. Oh yeah, we're talking about Kai Wong. And Parker is saying, love it, great job. Thank you, I appreciate it, man. I really do. For someone who is a live stream aficionado, someone who's seen quite a few. That really does go a long way. Thanks, Parker. Um, Ketcha says, yeah, Canon. All right, so we're saying great stream. Thank you very much. Nice stream. Well, everyone, as always, take care of yourselves and each other. And I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces right here when we do it all over again next week. Talk to you.